Coming up on Network Africa, the Human Rights Watch says M23 rebels killed 140 civilians in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo despite the peace process. Uganda begins its presidential campaign towards general elections in January 2026. Plus, African leaders attend the 9th Tokyo International Conference and African Development Summit beginning today in Japan. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Olarinde. At least 140 civilians were killed in July by Rwanda-backed M23 rebels in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. This is according to a new report released by the Human Rights Watch. The group warns that the actual death toll may exceed 300, aligning with similar estimates from the United Nations. The killings occurred despite ongoing peace efforts, including a US-brokered agreement between DR Congo and Rwanda back in June, and Qatar hosted negotiations with the rebels. Human Rights Watch says violence has remained alarmingly high in Rutshuru territory, where the attacks unfolded across at least 14 villages near Virunga National Park. Well, we're in Uganda now, where the 2026 presidential campaign is officially underway as both the ruling party and leading opposition forces begin landmark steps. On Tuesday, the National Resistance Movement unveiled President Yoweri Museveni as its candidate for the January 2026 election. His official campaign portrait was revealed by senior party figures to mark the beginning of the campaign period. Meanwhile, opposition parties have also mobilized. On Monday, the National Unity Platform, NUP, and the Democratic Party, DP, formally entered the race, with key figures picking up presidential nomination forms from the Electoral Commission. The NUP camp is rallying behind the slogan, New Uganda Now, pledging democratic reforms and vigilance against electoral interference, citing past irregularities, while President Museveni's campaign is promising continuity, stability, and development. The Electoral Commission statistics showed that the number of presidential hopefuls has risen by late last evening, with 177 candidates who have collected presidential forms. In the meantime, President Museveni has commissioned a $250 million gold mining project worth $250 million, a move expected to boost employment and export revenue for the country. The Chinese-owned Wagagai project in Busia will process gold to 99.9% purity locally, reducing the export of raw ore and adding value at source. President Museveni said the investment shows Africa can escape poverty by using resources more wisely. The company says it has already invested $150 million in equipment and created 2,000 jobs in the country. Officials expect the project to produce gold for the next 20 years, with total reserves estimated at 30 million tons. Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Ruth Nankabira, pointed out that the facility will also create new opportunities for small-scale miners.
So, I want to thank Wagagai for listening to my message from the beginning and fully processing the gold. Uganda will get more money, but we can also use this gold here in our other industries. How can Africa get out of poverty with such squandering all resources? You are getting less money, you can't use that material in other industries, you are losing jobs because these people are now they are going to employ, they are talking of 5,000 with President Ruto, with President Kagame. We shall launch a very powerful steel factory there in Sororo. Using the iron ore from Kabale, using the coal from Mombasa. So Uganda can quickly become a highly industrialized country because we have got everything.
So we are organizing them, we are getting data, and we have seen associations coming up like the Uganda Association of Artisanal and Small-Scale Miners, which has been formed, representing about 150,000 miners nationally, with Busia as a key focal point and local groups such as TIRA Small Scale Miners Association, TIRA Landlords Miners Association, and Busia United. They have emerged through our efforts and interaction.
Well, we're still with Uganda. The country has agreed to take in African and Asian migrants that will be deported from the U.S. These are people who sought asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border. And this is coming after the U.S. reached bilateral deportation agreements with Uganda and Honduras, and it's part of the U.S.'s crackdown on illegal migration. The move is also part of an attempt by President Trump's administration to get more countries to accept deported migrants who are not their own citizens. Well, human rights campaigners have long condemned the policy, warning migrants could face harm in the countries they are sent to. Well, joining us now for more on all that's happening in Uganda is Canary Mug. He's an investigative journalist with the MBS TV in Kampala. Thank you for your time on Network Africa.
Thank you for having me.
Well, what more details can you give us about this migration deal with the U.S.? How many migrants Uganda will be receiving, and particularly the reason behind the government's decision?
Well, honestly, we've not had such information delivered by the Ugandan government. Ugandan government has even gone categorically clear that they are denying such a deal. I think it was a report by one of the dailies here that Foreign Affairs Ministry said they do not have any knowledge and they have not reached such an agreement. Now, what we do not know is whether it's denying while it's true or it's being done and in the shadows. So while the US may be exploring third country deportation deals with confirmed agreements with countries like Rwanda, what the official position here is that Uganda for now is not part of that network officially.
All right, because, my next question was going to be, the country is already under stress. According to humanitarian officials, the country is the largest refugee hosting country within the continent, and with figures nearing 2 million, how the government intends to cater to the needs of these deportees. But since it's not official already in the country, we're not sure what reactions Ugandans will have to this deal. But let's then move on to, the presidential campaigns that are ongoing, that have started. How is that going on?
Well, there's no official presidential campaigns that have begun yet. What is taking place is aspirants. So these are aspirants before they even are confirmed as candidates. They are confirmed as candidates immediately. They are verified and confirmed by the Electoral Commission. So what is taking place here now is really candidates getting ready. They have picked more than 100, like you said in your report, have picked nomination forms. They're supposed to go around the country and collect 100 signatures from about 90 districts. We have more than 140 districts here. They're supposed to collect 100 signatures from more than 90 districts and then return the nomination forms to the Electoral Commission. Once that is done, the signatures are verified and then they are asked to pay some money. It's about 20 million Ugandan shillings. I think that's about, I would say, $5,000. So once that is done, then they are confirmed as candidates. But what political parties here are doing, and even the independent aspirants or hopefuls, are just getting ready. We so far at least know that President Museveni, who has been in power since 1986 and leading the NRM, the ruling party, will be returning, and many others, including the one who came second in the last election, Robert Chagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine.
Indeed, and even as preparations continue towards January 2026, what are Ugandans? What are the pressing issues for Ugandans that they would like to see a change from perhaps from a new government when elections come?
Well, Uganda is one of the youngest nations in the world. If I told you 50% of all Ugandans are below the age of 18, and 78% are below the age of 35. We're literally a young country that has only seen only one president, right? So many young people feel like the government ruling currently is completely detached from their aspirations. Aspirations, when you talk about employment, when you talk about technology, and many other things, including provision of social services. So the frustrations currently, or if I could say the leading issues, really are about the health policy, trying to make sure that each Ugandan can be able to afford health services and doesn't need to pay to go out of the country to access that, education that is affordable, but most importantly, employment. University students are getting out of university, graduating, but they cannot find employment, and they don't understand how the government has failed for 40 years to respond to that. As the government has started a number of skilling programs, but it has not really converted those skilling programs into the kind of employment opportunities that young people are really yearning for. But more to that, there's of course a lot of concern of the government being run at a very high cost. That is a very, very large government. For example, the size of parliament, the size of cabinet, the cost of public administration has really reached its peak, and Ugandans feel like the government is not listening. Those are some of the issues that are outstanding.
All right, then. Thank you so much. Canary Mug, investigative journalist with MBC TV Kampala. Thank you for joining us. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu is in Japan attending the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development in Yokohama. The president is expected to hold bilateral meetings and engage with the chief executives of Japanese companies investing in Nigeria. Minister of Foreign Affairs Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, who is also part of the delegation, says Nigeria has already had engagements in power, agriculture and other sectors. He insists Nigeria is also taking advantage of the gathering to lobby for other issues, such as a seat in the UN Security Council. The Tokyo International Conference on African Development is a conference held regularly with the objective to promote high-level policy dialogue between African leaders and development partners, and it's co-hosted by Japan. Attending the summit this year are Presidents Bola Tinubu of Nigeria, Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, William Ruto of Kenya, and also the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
We have had engagements in the power sector. There's a transmission project going on in Nigeria being supported by this organ. There is also quite a bit of trade that is going on with regards to agricultural commodities such as shea butter. Of course, some of it is even being processed in Nigeria. And then you also have cassava, and we're looking to expand to what we refer to as acha. I can't remember the English word for acha, but there's a high demand of it here in Japan. And of course, Nigeria exports huge amounts of hydrocarbons to Japan, which is why our trade is about $1 billion. We're looking to expand that. Beyond that, there is the African politics as well. There's the issue of the seat in the UN Security Council. So this is the right sort of platform, particularly since as many as 17 heads of state are being expected for Nigeria to lobby for that. There's a seat in the International Court of Justice. There is the OPCW in the Netherlands, and there's also the International Maritime Organization seat for a country, not an individual. So these are all things that are happening here, and this is the sort of platform to engage.
Let's take a break now on the program. Still to come. We remember Dr. Stella Adivos, the consultant physician who played a pivotal role in preventing the spread of the deadly Ebola virus in Nigeria back in 2014. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. On Tuesday, August 19, marked 11 years since Dr. Stella Adivos, the consultant physician and endocrinologist who played a pivotal role in preventing the spread of the deadly Ebola virus in Nigeria in 2014, lost her life. Well, our next report takes a look at her heroic efforts, which yielded results for the greater public good.
Nigeria has now recorded 7 confirmed cases of Ebola virus disease.
One of the numerous information the then health authorities in Nigeria provided to the general public during the outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus in the country in the year 2014. At the time, what is considered the largest outbreak of Ebola virus disease was going on in West Africa, affecting primarily Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Senegal. Until July 20, 2014, when the first case of the disease came into Nigeria through a Liberian American, Patrick Sawyer, who was physically sick on arrival into the country for a conference in Port Harcourt. He ended up at the First Consultant Hospital in Lagos, where healthcare professionals, led by consultant physician and endocrinologist Dr. Stella Adivos, attended to him.
Regrettably, the female doctor who attended to the index case at the private hospital in Lagos is infected.
Dr. Adivos, alongside 3 of her colleagues, contracted the disease through what was described as the violent efforts of Patrick Sawyer to discharge himself from the hospital, a move she and the hospital management stood against, which saved millions of lives that could have been exposed to the virus, but one that took the life of Dr. Adivos and her 3 colleagues. By October 2014, when Nigeria was declared free of the Ebola virus disease by the World Health Organization, the country had recorded 20 laboratory-confirmed EVD cases and a total of 8 deaths.
She was a very courageous person throughout her life, not even through the way she died. She was a true inspiration, and as her family, we miss her greatly. We used to call her small but mighty, so none of us were really surprised that she did what she did in 2014. But it's still very painful 11 years later, and that's why we're determined to make sure that we keep her legacy alive.
Dr. Adivos has been honored posthumously at different times, including a national honor of Officer of the Order of Niger, OON, and a movie, 93 Days, was shot in her memory. Her legacy also lives on through the Dr. Ameyo Stella Adivos Health Trust.
What she did is our driving philosophy at the organization at DRASA. We've worked in 32 states. We've established 13 health emergency response systems at 13 of Nigeria's largest points of entry, airports, seaports, and land borders in 9 states. We've equipped over 96,000 people, everyday people, to become health champions.
11 years after, Dr. Stella Adivos' heroic act during Nigeria's Ebola crisis is a testament to the power of courage and selflessness in the face of adversity and the critical role healthcare professionals play in safeguarding public health. Yomi Otaibe, Channels Television News.
The Chinese consulate has premiered a historical documentary titled The Sinking of the Lisbon Maru, commemorating the torpedoing of the wartime freighter Lisbon Maru, the attempted mass murder of British prisoners of war on board by their Japanese captors, and their rescue by Chinese fishermen. The documentary premiered over the weekend in Lagos.
The documentary being premiered by the Chinese consulate is a brief lesson in history. Commemorating the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War. It also marks the 80th anniversaries of Taiwan's recovery and the founding of the United Nations. The Lisbon Maru was a Japanese cargo liner built at Yokohama in 1920 for a Japanese shipping line. On her final voyage, the Lisbon Maru was being used to transport prisoners of war between Hong Kong and Japan when it was torpedoed by the submarine USS Grouper on October 1, 1942. Honouring invitation to watch the documentary is the Deputy Head of Mission at the British Deputy High Commission in Lagos, Simon Field, and other members of the diplomatic corps, as well as friends of China and Nigeria. The Chinese Consul General to Nigeria, Yan Yuqing, in English and Mandarin, explains the history behind the Lisbon Maru.
During Second World War, more than 1,800 British prisoners of war who had surrendered in Hong Kong were forcibly put aboard the Lisbon Maru by the Japanese military and transported to Japan. When passing near Dongji Island in Zhoushan, Zhejiang province, the ship was attacked and began to sink. The Japanese not only failed to rescue the British prisoners, but also locked them inside the cabin. Fortunately, local Chinese fishermen, at the risk of their own lives, rescued the British soldiers drifting at sea and brought them to the island. The brave choice and action of the Chinese fishermen changed the fate of thousands and left a touch of warmth and dignity in this heavy chapter of wartime history. It reminds us that the mission of peace rests upon each and every one of our shoulders.
Former Nigerian ambassador to China, Ambassador Oluwole Koka, says Nigeria should learn from China's quest for peace, which has led to further development in the country.
See the development that has taken place in China. If there had been no peace, and these people did not want peace, there wouldn't have been that kind of development we found in China. So I want to enjoy Nigerians, not only Nigerians, but also Africans, to always work for peace. Because without peace, there will be no development. And when you have development, you have total freedom.
Secretary General of the West Africa Association for the Promotion of Peaceful Reunification of China, Jacob Wood, appreciated all those who helped China during the war.
Today we are very great to have this film. We just tell the people, our generations, as our leader said, that the world is a big group after Hong Kong. British people in 1950s, 1940s, they fighting Japanese, and they stand in Hong Kong. Although later something happened, but we appreciate. We appreciate all the people who support the Chinese, the anti-Japanese award, especially the British soldiers, American soldiers, also all the peoples. So today we are here. We cannot forget the past.
Over 800 prisoners of war died in the sinking of the Lisbon Maru, either by drowning or being shot by Japanese soldiers as they attempted to escape from the sinking ship. But about 384 prisoners of war were rescued by nearby Chinese fishermen. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
And as we end the program, here's our fun fact about the continent. Did you know that Ethiopia is the only country that was never formally colonized by European-owned power, although it experienced a brief Italian occupation during World War II? This makes it one of the few African nations to have avoided the widespread colonial rule experienced by most countries on the continent. Well, Ethiopia's resistance to colonization has made it a symbol of African independence and a source of pride for the continent. Well, if you didn't know, now you know. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.